All right, everybody. Valerie and I want to thank all of you for coming here this evening. And I'm going to give a toast in a few minutes, but you're going to have to put up with a few minutes of a story. Good news is there will be more wine. There will be more of the Jessica. The Jessica was a cocktail custom crafted by the bar manager here with Jessica's guidance.
Jessica got to taste lots of different stuff.
It's sweet. It's small. And if you hang around it long enough, you'll get used to the weird Cary sense of humor.
That's the truth.
First of all, I want to thank Phil Romano and his team here for putting this together for us. This is a fantastic setting. Phil's newest concept here, Network Bar, and it's a fantastic space. The team has been fantastic with helping us out, putting everything together, and so we really appreciate it. But I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about paths crossing. And so when Trenton decided to go to UNT to become a software developer, he went there for a little while, but it wasn't that long. And he called me and said, I think I need to transfer to UT Dallas because UNT is too much of a party school and I need to focus on my grades. Okay, now first of all, especially the Brewer family, you need to understand, Trenton and grades were not the best of friends. So when I got this call, my first thought was, okay, caller ID is right. Oh no, what did you do wrong? And I told him, I said, okay, so let's finish the year out and then let's talk about the strategy. Well, he decided, he agreed with that, and it was not long after that Trenton crossed paths with this guy named Alberto. And Alberto was joining a fraternity, Sigma Nu, that was had lost its charter. They were getting started back up. So Valerie and I, we didn't know anything about this. We were out of town, and Valerie got this text from Trenton, said, I'm joining a fraternity. I need my whatever, tie, belt, whatever I left under the bed. And so, Valerie and I, our first thought was, who is this, and what did you do with Trenton? And Trenton told us, these are regular fraternity guys. I'm thinking, well, Sigma Nu, it's a really well-known fraternity. And he said, they're not like regular fraternity guys. And I quickly found that out, and to give you an idea, when I would show a picture of Trenton with his fraternity brothers to one of my friends, I would say, he's the short white one. Because they had all kinds of shapes, sizes, colors, backgrounds, majors, and it worked. It was fantastic. And in fact, while he was there, another fraternity at another college had some negative press, let's say, and it was that time I had never been so proud of the Sigma Nus and the way those guys just worked together, the way they fit together. Those guys are the ones that caused Trenton to stay at UNT. Those guys were the ones that caused Trenton to want to be even better, keep achieving, keep doing more. So we're so thankful for those Sigma Nu guys. In fact, 4 years ago, when Trenton was in the hospital for his second transplant, he doesn't remember this. He was so heavily sedated, but he was conscious, and he wanted, whenever he could, he wanted to have his Sigma Nu necklace on. He even had me take a picture of him, and it was the most pitiful picture I've ever seen. But he was proud of it. And those guys kind of helped push him through to keep moving on. That was his attitude, was just get this out of the way. In fact, a few months before the transplant, when we knew he would need one, Trenton said, well, it's got to be June or July because I'm busy with school.
That's right.
The spring semester finished, the transplant happened, he got out of the hospital, and Valerie and I started discussing with him, do we take the fall semester off just to, recoup? And Trenton insisted, no, I've got to get back to school, I got work to do. He had the Sigma Nus and he had his school work. And so we decided to go ahead and move him back in. Trenton and his gang were part of some of the refounding fathers of that chapter of Sigma Nu. And they've gotten their fraternity house back. And so we moved him in, and friends were asking me, are you nuts moving a kid that just had a heart transplant back into a fraternity house? And we just renovated the place. So I just told them, this is no problem. It's all fresh beer and vomit. In fact, they gave Trenton one of the few rooms on the first floor, so we didn't have to go up and down the stairs. So it was a fantastic fit for him. He moved right back in and didn't miss a day of school. And it was because of those Sigma Nus driving him to get back. It was because of those Sigma Nus that just happened to have an opportunity to meet with Zeta Tau Alpha sorority when they were making a float. And one night Trenton was there and met this cute little girl named Jessica, and they were, my understanding is, I think they were wadding up pieces of paper and you put them into a box.
Pumping it
is. And they were going to be used, thank you, they were going to be used to assemble the float.
And he was throwing them at her.
And Trenton
she started it. She threw them at him first.
Trenton claims that Jessica was flirting with him by throwing at her. Jessica claims that she was just a bad shot. Either way, thank you God that Jessica was a bad shot. Because they started dating soon after, met Gary and Daphne, Jessica's parents, and it would be the one time that Trenton would see Gary standing. Not long after, as most of you know, that Gary was sent to Baylor for emergency heart surgery. And Jessica was down there with the rest of the family, the Brewer family, to be in the waiting room. And Trenton thought he should be down there too, to sit with Jessica. So I said I would drive him down. And we got to Baylor, and I realized I'd never met the Brewer family. And I couldn't just drop him off. I need to go and at least say hello. So Trenton and I walked into Baylor, went up to the second floor waiting room. We got off the elevator, and I kind of motioned Trenton to lead the way. And Trenton hesitated. He goes, "Is that the waiting room?" And I go, "Oh yeah, you don't know where the waiting rooms are. You know where the operating rooms are." Yeah, this is it. And he led the way in, and I realized as I'm walking in, this was the first time in a year I'd been in that waiting room back a year earlier when Trenton was having his transplant, and all of our family and friends were there with us. And now, because of that, because of the good that came from that, Trenton was now in a position to do that for someone else. He got to walk in there and stay with the Brewer family, and that's when I first met them. And we thought Gary was going to get better, but he started declining. We knew that he wasn't going to make it. And so I wanted to talk to Gary, being the father of an awesome young girl, the thought of leaving her at this point. I wanted to tell Gary that I didn't know how long Trenton and Jessica would be together, but as long as they were, I would do my best to make sure that he treated her the way I want my daughter treated. And a few days passed, and we couldn't find a time to do it. Gary was having some difficulties. And Daphne contacted me at one point and said, "We're taking him home. But if you have a chance, if you hurry down here, you can talk to him." And so it's about a 10-minute drive from my office to the hospital. So about 8 minutes later, I pulled up at Baylor. I went upstairs and stepped into the room, and some of the family there was there with him. And I waited for a while because the nurses were working on him, adjusting his oxygen mask. And finally a point came up where Daphne stepped over to his bed and said, "Trenton's dad is here, and he wants to talk to you." So I went over to Gary and stuck out my hand. He had stuck out his hand. He said, "Pleased to meet you." And I said, "Hello." And then more nurses stepped in, got in the way, started working on him. I had to back away. I never got to say that to him. My path and Gary's path crossed for just a matter of seconds, but I'm still thankful for that one opportunity that I got to see Jessica's dad. And I'm honored that Valerie and I got to be with the Brewer family, with Trenton, at their home when Gary passed, and to attend the funeral. So there was a story about this geek in college that meets an adorable little brunette, They start dating, they meet the parents, they see the father standing only one time before he gets ill, passes away. That little geek is there to be with that adorable little brunette during that tough time. And of course that story is about Trenton, but that story is also exactly me and Valerie. Same thing happened 32 years ago in 1986 when her dad passed away. So if you wonder about how the story ends, thankfully it hasn't yet. More chapters being written. And tonight I'm just thankful that our paths have crossed, that we crossed with UNT, that we crossed with Sigma Nu, with the Zetas, with everyone along the way. We're just thankful for all these paths that have crossed. And how does Trenton's story go from here? I don't know. Valerie and I have 3 decades of a novel written at this point with big events. We've gone through a number of big events. In a couple of months, we're going to go through another big event. Thank you, God. And so for Trenton and Jessica, you're just getting your book written, writing a great chapter tonight. I'm thankful that we have all these friends here together to help write the chapter for you. I wanted to mention that you don't know where these paths are going to cross. So Phil Romano, you know him for creating Macaroni Grill, Eat Seas, Fuddruckers, all of Trinity Groves. But Phil Romano was also the person who funded the development of the stent. And because of that stent, Trent had 4 stents for a week and a half to keep his heart going until that transplant came available. And so because of that, Phil, you don't know where these paths cross. Long ago, appreciate all that you did back then. A year ago tomorrow, Trenton proposed to Jessica at St. Rocco at the other end of Trinity Groves, another Phil Romano restaurant. So tonight it's kind of fitting that we are at another Phil Romano setting to cross paths. You never know how indirectly or directly your paths are going to cross. So I wanted to, everyone raise your glass, and I want to toast to all of our paths crossing tonight. I want to toast to Gary. I'm so thankful that I had that path crossed with him, at least for a moment. And above all, I want to wish Trenton and Jessica a wonderful life down this path. May you guys grow closer to each other by growing closer to God. May that path He sets for you have some wonderful things in it, and may we all keep crossing that path with you.
What's my greatest concept that I've done? And I tell them it was a step. It saved lives. It makes a difference. I thought I'm a mad person. M-A-D, make a difference. Make a difference in people's lives. It's keeping my customers alive. But this is what's so gratifying. The restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But boy, when you do something that keeps people alive, and people come up to me all the time and say, wow, I got 3 stents to me, I got this, my mother had, my father has, my son has, and all this stuff. They come to me all the time. Surprisingly enough, I got 2 of them in me. 25 years after I brought this to the marketplace, I've got 2 stents in me. It's like eating my own food 25 years later. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. It makes me feel good. And best of luck to you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.